I cleared my schedule, bought round-trip plane tickets, and even made early reservations at the Italian restaurant my mom kept raving about during our group calls. I imagined myself walking into the living room, holding a gift box, with the scent of cinnamon, wood, and nutmeg wafting from the simmering pot of cider on the stove. But instead, I got a message that took less than 20 seconds to shatter every expectation I had built up all winter. "Riley, there's a little change this year," my mom texted, followed by a weird smiley face emoji. My brother's call ended with a line so cold it made me drop to the kitchen floor, like someone had punched me in the chest. "If you come, we'll pretend we don't know who you are." It all started 3 days before Christmas, while I was prepping the brown ginger pudding my family begged me to bring every year. I was measuring sugar when my phone rang. The screen showed Callan, my 27-year-old brother, self-proclaimed PR specialist and mom's idea of the life of the party. I answered with a smile, but before I could say anything, his voice came through, trying to sound casual like he was reporting the weather. "Hey. This year, you really don't need to fly in. Seriously." I froze, still holding the measuring cup. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Tessa's staying with us this year. She's super sensitive to energy, you get it. Like, you work in a nursing home, that kind of energy is heavy." I went quiet. I could hear something breaking inside me. "You're saying you and Mom don't want me there because your new girlfriend thinks my energy ruins the vibe?" Callan chuckled nervously. "Don't take it the wrong way, we're just trying to keep the space positive. Tessa's someone who really needs harmony, and you do big noble things. It just doesn't match the vibe this year." I heard every word. Doesn't match the vibe. I'm the eldest daughter, 34, a senior nurse practitioner at a geriatric rehab center in Austin, Texas. For over a decade, I've been the one hauling bags of gifts and hot dishes every holiday. And now, because of some yoga girlfriend/crystal artist who needs calm energy, I was being cast aside like an ugly ink stain on a white tablecloth. "Anyway, I have to help Tessa reset the chandeliers. Mom will call you later." The call ended. "No love you. No thanks for preparing." An hour later, my mom actually called. I was still in the kitchen, clutching the sink, not crying, just breathing hard with my mind spinning. "Honey, I know this might make you feel uncomfortable, but this year, I think it's best you take a break. Tessa gets a little overwhelmed. And Callan is really trying with this relationship. Tell me the truth. If I showed up, would you open the door?" A pause. Then her voice dropped. "Maybe. We wouldn't answer. Just to keep things peaceful." I clenched my fist until my knuckles turned white. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just hung up. Quietly. This Christmas, I wasn't forgotten. I was removed. And for the first time in my life, I knew what it felt like to be completely rejected by the very people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I didn't respond with tears, nor did I call back asking why. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into my bank accounts, and started dismantling every financial thread I had quietly maintained for them over the years. It wasn't rage I felt. It was a cold clarity, like I'd just been yanked out of a long delusion. The Subaru my mom drives every week to pick up organic produce from the farmer's market, my name is on the loan. I had been quietly covering most of the monthly payments since she retired early due to chronic stress. I canceled the autopay. The central heating system I paid $4,800.00 for last winter after they called in the middle of the night saying it was so cold the toilet water was icing over. I stopped the recurring maintenance renewal. The homeowner's insurance policy I co-signed to help them get a lower rate? I removed my name. Silently. No notice, no explanation. Each action felt like slicing through the invisible cords they had wrapped around me for over a decade. But the hardest part wasn't cutting them, it was realizing I had become their default support beam. No thank you. Not once did they ask if I could even afford to take care of myself. I still remember the day I replaced the entire roof after the big storm in Houston. Callan sent exactly one text. "Wow, that was fast. Are you like a superhero or something?" Then he followed up with a photo of himself drinking a latte in New York with the caption, "Healing vibes." Tessa was next to him, smiling like she'd never known what responsibility meant. I used to think I was helping out of love. But in truth, I was trying to make up for the things they never gave me. Presence, recognition, a kind word. And when I realized that, I sat still for almost an hour, just listening to the hum of the air conditioner in my small apartment. A place no one ever visits. The next day, I froze the secondary account my mom used to shop, with the card I provided. When I set up that account, she called me a blessing, then, a year later, scolded me for being too busy to understand what it means to love your family. I also canceled the monthly automatic transfer I'd been sending to cover Kalan's son's tuition, which according to my mom, was a compassionate gesture, since Tessa was struggling. Struggling how, exactly, when the two of them still took 3 vacations a year? One to the Bahamas, one to Sedona, and most recently Iceland. Just to photograph the northern lights. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't post on social media, I didn't cry to my friends. I just turned off the Christmas lights, packed away the wrapped gifts and folded the cloth napkin I'd used to wipe my mouth after last year's solo dinner. When the lights went out, the apartment sank into quiet darkness. A kind of quiet I once feared now became the only thing that made me feel safe. 3 days passed. No one called. No one asked if I was okay. That only confirmed one thing. I was just a coat rack in that house. Useful when needed, but no one cares when it's gone. On Friday, I got an email from the bank saying someone had tried to access the locked secondary account. Then came a text from my mom. "Honey, is my card broken? I need to buy things for the Sunday church lunch." I didn't reply. An hour later, Callan called. I declined the call. A message popped up right after. "I thought you were generous. Didn't expect you to act so childish." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was laughable. In their minds, my support was a given. Like running water. Like air. I leaned back in my chair, looked at the ceiling, then closed my eyes. I no longer wanted to save them from their own consequences, and I didn't need to shout for anyone to know I had stopped. At some point, silence has its own power. And I was just getting started. I was sitting on my living room floor, holding an old ceramic mug that read, "Nurse life equals real life, a gift from a former patient," when a message from Aunt Sarah popped up. "Riley, can you call me? Your mom is panicking. Something big happened yesterday." I didn't respond right away. It felt like a cold wind had just slipped through the doorframe. I opened my phone and went to Facebook. Unread messages, 3 missed calls, 1 post going viral in the art and mental wellness community. The first photo was a blurry portrait, showing the Christmas party at my mom's house. Warm yellow lights, scented candles, smiling faces raising their glasses. But what froze me was the caption below, posted by Tessa. "Callan's girlfriend." I thought I was entering a family full of love. But then I learned the truth. The post had nearly 800 shares and hundreds of comments. Tessa said she had heard of me, not from Callan or my mom, but from her own grandmother, Marjorie, whom I had cared for during the last 6 months of her life. She said her grandmother once told her about a nurse named Riley, who helped her find life again when no one believed she'd walk. Riley didn't just heal the body. She restored faith. That's what Tessa wrote, alongside a photo of me sitting by Marjorie's bedside, holding her hand. My gaze gentle. The setting, unmistakably, the recovery ward at Del Mar Senior Center, in Texas. Then came the part that made my blood stop cold. When I realized the person they mocked was the one who saved the woman I loved most, I had to leave that house. I couldn't sit at a table with people who treat kindness like a disease. I stayed silent. A faint smile formed on my lips. Not joy. Relief. Finally, someone said it. 3 hours later, My mom called. I didn't answer. The message came right after. You've done enough. Callan is falling apart. Tessa left him. And now everyone's blaming our family. They think we're monsters. You need to take that post down, now. I didn't respond. Because I knew this wasn't over. That afternoon, Callan called. His voice was hoarse. What did you say to her? Why are you trying to ruin everything for me? I put him on speaker and poured a glass of water. You've got it wrong. You ruined it yourself. I wasn't even there. She said you're the one who saved her grandmother. She called me a hypocrite. I didn't even know. Because you never asked. Silence. Then Callan laughed. The kind of laugh someone makes right before they snap. Your whole life you've loved playing the victim. And now look at you, social media hero. Everyone's sharing that post like you're some damn savior. Took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't need praise. I just stopped being silent. You and Mom can keep telling your story, but this time, someone else is telling it too. So you're not going to do anything? Not going to defend your own family? What family? He hung up. I sat there, alone. But in that silence, I didn't feel empty. I felt right. I was right not to go. I was right to stop paying for ungratefulness. And I'm not the one who needs to explain or apologize. I scrolled through the post again. A comment, pinned to the top, read, "The world needs more people like her, and fewer who sugarcoat toxicity as family." I took a screenshot, saved it, to show off. To remind myself. The truth has a voice, and this time, it didn't need me to scream. I used to try to forget. Forget what it felt like to stand on the sidelines of my own family. The one place where I was supposed to feel safest. But the older I got and the more I achieved, the more I realized. Some scars don't live on your skin. They live in your memory. And memories don't come with anesthesia. I still clearly remember the day I got a perfect score on my 8th grade science exam. I handed the paper to my mom with hope in my eyes. She glanced at it, nodded, then asked if I had done the dishes yet. That same day, Colin, only 6 years old at the time, drew a rabbit with crayons that looked like a smudge of ink. That drawing was placed right in the center of the refrigerator door. My mom called it a strong creative instinct. The year I was accepted into the University of Texas medical program on a full scholarship, I excitedly brought home the acceptance letter, thinking that this time they would at least be proud. My mom looked at it and said, "That's fine, as long as you take care of your health. Don't study yourself sick." My dad just nodded and went back to fixing the TV antenna. A few weeks later, Callan changed his major for the 3rd time, from communications to photography, then came home and declared, "I think I was born to tell stories through images." My mom cried from emotion. They threw a small party with cake, balloons, and a sign that read, "Freedom is the first step of genius." I washed dishes the entire night. I used to ask myself what I had done wrong. I was smart, obedient, stayed out of trouble. But somehow, the less I demanded, the more invisible I became. To them, Callan was the emotional, sensitive, artistic soul. And me? I was the medical robot. The one who takes everything too seriously. I tried to make them proud in every way I could, working night shifts in the emergency department, tutoring med students, publishing research, attending statewide conferences. But, when I told my mom that my article had just been published in a geriatrics journal, something only 3% of doctors under 35 achieve, she only said, "Have you thought about dating? Kids these days marry too late." They always said I was cold. That I lived at the hospital more than at home. That I didn't know how to smile at the right time. But not once did they ask if I was okay. No one in the family had ever stepped into the rehab center where I worked to see how I cared for patients. All they knew was that I worked with dying people. And they whispered that it made me morbid. Once, I overheard my mom on the phone with her friend. Yeah, my oldest daughter's smart, but hard to get close to. She always talks like she's reading a medical newsletter. Honestly, living like her must be so sad. Sad? Yes. Sad that, even when I succeeded, I was still their silent disappointment. A presence no one knew how to love. A daughter who was always right, but never enough. Callan? He was called the bringer of light. When he broke the only crystal lamp our grandma left behind, my mom just sighed. It's okay, sweetie, you're just too passionate. Meanwhile, when I was once late for a holiday dinner because I was covering a shift in the ER, I got a knife-sharp remark. Do you ever prioritize your family? I used to believe that time would heal. That if I just kept trying, things would change. But the truth is, some people will never see you if they've gotten used to turning away. I'm not someone who demands affection. I don't need them to praise me every time I save someone's life. I just once wished. Just once. They would look at me the way they looked at Callan. With pride. Without hesitation. Without conditions. But now I don't need that anymore. Because I've stopped hoping. And maybe that's the first step toward real freedom. 3 days after the online chaos, while my entire family remained unusually silent, no apologies, no excuses, I received a small parcel. No sender listed on the envelope, just a slanted note. To Riley Monroe. I thought it was junk mail and almost tore it up, but something made me pause. A familiar intuition, the kind I learned while working at the edge of life and death, whispered, "Open it." Inside was a thick letter, heavy paper, fresh ink, with faint smudges like it had been touched by water. Maybe rain. Or tears. Dear Riley. I don't know how to begin. I'm not sure writing a letter is what you expected right now. But I need to say this, and I want to say it slowly. Truly. Not through texts. Not online. I'm sorry if this bothers you. Last week, I finally learned who you are. Not from Callan. Not from his family. But from my grandmother. Marjorie. I swallowed hard. My hand clenched the page gently. She told me about the nurse whose eyes never looked away when patients were in pain. About the one who sat with her every night. Read her medical journals. Helped her believe she wasn't useless, even though she couldn't walk anymore. She said you held her hand and said, "I don't see a patient. I see a warrior who's tired." I remember that afternoon clearly. Marjorie was writhing in chronic joint pain, her heartbeat erratic. She had wanted to refuse treatment, saying there was no reason left to keep fighting. I held her hand. Wrinkled, cold, and covered in bruises. And said those exact words. I never thought anyone would remember. But it turns out, they didn't just remember. They told the story. I was shocked to find out. You were the one my whole family mocked that Christmas night. They never said your name, but I knew. It was the way they talked about doctors, nurses, hospitals, like those were grim places for the weak. The way they smirked when they mentioned, the one who always talks about death. As if saving lives was something disgusting. When I saw your photo, and recognized the face my grandmother kept in the small frame on her nightstand, I couldn't sit still anymore. I blinked, feeling something tight rise in my throat. It wasn't anger. It was relief. The kind of feeling you get after a lifetime of being misunderstood, when finally, someone doesn't need you to explain and still understands. I left the party. I couldn't sit next to people who laugh at kindness. I broke up with Callan too. Not out of anger, but because I can't love someone who doesn't appreciate the woman who gave my grandmother 2 more meaningful years. I don't know if you needed to hear this. But, thank you. Truly, you changed one life, and now you're changing another. Mine. At the end of the letter was a final line, written carefully in blue ink. I don't need anything from you. I just want you to know. I see you. And I believe that this time, no one can erase that truth from my eyes. Tessa. I sat still for a long time. The letter rested on my lap while I cried. Not from pain, but from finally being seen. In a world where I always had to fight to be recognized, just one handwritten letter, a few shaky lines, became a mirror reflecting my true self. Not through my mother's distortion, not through Callan's indifference, not through the fake smiles at family dinners. Tessa didn't ask for anything, didn't expect me to fix anything. She simply acknowledged me. And that, to me, was worth more than all the overdue apologies my family had owed me for years. I stood up, took an empty wooden frame I had stored in the cabinet. I placed the letter inside. Hung it beside my desk, where every day I write patient notes for those hovering at the thin line between right and wrong, between seen and unseen. For the first time I knew I had been seen. And this time, I was no longer invisible. I had just finished my late shift, still smelling faintly of disinfectant, the sound of monitors echoing in my head, when the phone rang. Mom? At first, I was going to let it go to voicemail, but something told me this wasn't just a regular call. I picked up. No greeting, no how are you. She went straight in, her voice a mix of anger and panic. Riley, what did you say to Tessa? I closed my eyes for a moment. That question perfectly summarized how my family's mind worked. If something went wrong, it had to be my fault. I didn't say anything, Mom. I got a letter. From her. Then why did she post it online like that? Can't you call her, tell her you didn't mean to hurt anyone? Dorian is nearly losing it. His gallery contract got cancelled. They said his name is no longer visually safe. Do you understand? I sat down, my nursing shoes still dusty from the hallway. My heart didn't race, but I felt heavy. Not from guilt. From audacity. Mom. The post didn't say anything false. You and Callan mocked my job, who I am, right in front of someone who had seen me save her grandmother. And now you want me to do what? Apologize for not showing up so you could keep pretending? She cut me off, voice rising. Don't take that tone with me, I'm just trying to save this family. Reputation isn't easy to build. Dorian has worked for years to be someone in the creative world. And now you've ruined it in one holiday season. No, Mom, he ruined it himself, I just stopped cleaning up after him. I heard a glass hit the table, then my dad's voice came in from behind, low and dry, the way he sounded whenever he tried to be serious. You know Dorian can be impulsive, but he has a good heart. He doesn't deserve this. You should call Tessa, clear it up. At least get her to take that post down, what she said. It's affecting all of us. No one wants to invite us to art events anymore. I laughed. Not with joy, but a sharp, cold laugh. So, I get called dark, grim like some graveyard gatekeeper. And that's fine. But when the truth comes out and your image takes a hit, now I'm the one who has to fix it? Silence.